There, my name is Akan Nelson. I'm passionate about two things: Pan-African success and development, and creativity, creative expression. And you're watching VIP Moments with Student Hub TV. Being on the KKB show was a phenomenal experience. I think I started the show. How the show started was there were a bunch of us who were all students at the same time in primary school, and one of our teachers, our assistant teacher, his part-time job was that he was on DBN as a producer, and we would make fun in class. We would do skits. We would act out different plays, and he said, you know, it would be a great idea if this was a TV show. And we're like, what do you mean? What TV show? And yeah, he took that crazy idea and he ran with it. He put us on TV, and I would say that was my first experience, between the ages of 10 and maybe 14, 15, just really expressing myself freely, without judgment, without boundaries, without anyone telling me like, oh, this is the right or wrong way to do this. And I would say it was a core part of my childhood, a core part of my life. It was a great experience. Growing up for me was so okay. Look, I straight facts. I had a great childhood, right? I would say relative um, to most children in Nigeria, most children on the African continent. I had a pretty privileged childhood. I grew up with both my parents. I have two siblings. They're both younger than me. I'm the oldest kid. Um, you know, at the time that I was born, we lived in Surulere first, and then we moved over to VGC, where I've lived for the last 12 years or so. I would say as a kid, I was a pretty well behaved kid. I think I spent a lot of time I spent a lot of time on my own in my own head. Just making up stories with my toys and stuff like that. And then of course I spent a big part of my childhood on the KKB show. When I think back to my childhood, I really can't say I had much to complain about. Um, I think I had everything I needed to set me up for success. I'm very grateful, honestly, very grateful for my childhood, for my parents, and for the life I've had. And that's part of why I'm so passionate now. Um, about development, in particular, affecting positive transformation in people's day-to-day lives. Part of why I'm so passionate about that is because I had such a privileged upbringing, such a privileged childhood, and I understand how that has allowed me to be the person I am today. And I think, it's a real shame that there's so many people, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people, millions of young people around the world who just really don't have that opportunity to be kids or to be young people or to explore themselves and make mistakes and fail forward. And I really want to dedicate my life to, one, making sure that they have those same opportunities, but two, through my own life, demonstrating that it's okay to express yourself to your fullest ability, and to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes without being judged. Why am I interested in global development and integration? Three core reasons. The first reason is this idea of oneness. I think everyone on Earth, everyone on this planet is linked, right? As in, what happens in Ghana affects what happens in Nigeria, affects what happens in Kenya, affects what happens in South Africa, right? And if we really want to see a world that is prosperous, right, and a world in which every single person has the tools they need to chase their dreams, right, and to be the best versions of themselves, we need to make sure that everyone is succeeding together, right? That's global development, right? You can't have Nigeria excelling, but our neighbors are falling behind, for instance. So that's the first reason I'm passionate about global integration and development. Is that I really strongly believe that everyone in the world shares a linked fate. The second reason I touched on earlier is I'm passionate about young people being able to express themselves fully, being able to make mistakes, being able to exist in an environment that gives them the tools they need, right, to be the best versions of themselves, right? And oftentimes we find that um, one environment might not be able to actualize itself in a certain in a certain field, to use that euphemism, but it might be able to learn from another environment, right? So for example, Nigerians in Nigeria might find that the way South Africans in South Africa do something when it comes to filmmaking, right, could benefit the Nollywood industry here, right? But for that link to be made, for Nigerians in Nigeria to even be able to begin to have that conversation with South Africans, there need to be global communication channels. People, xenophobia needs to be toned down so that people can see beyond their differences so that they can connect, right, on a human level and share their experiences. So that's the second reason. And the third reason I'm really passionate about global development is I spent, so after I graduated from secondary school in Nigeria, I spent 2 years at the African Leadership Academy in South Africa, in Johannesburg. And a big part of their vision there is, they're developing the next generation of African leaders. And so my personal values and my personal ethos is that I can't just succeed on my own. I need to contribute to my community. I need to contribute to the world. I need to make sure that people are supporting each other. Right? So community development is really important to me. Yeah, that's a big answer to a really small question, but that's why I'm passionate about global development. My biggest motivation. Um, that's a really good question. I'd say my number one motivation for everything I do is this need for consistent, continuous self-transcendence. And what I mean by that is continuous self-improvement, right? So when I go about every second of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, what I'm really trying to do is make sure that I'm constantly learning, right? And continuously improving myself so that who I am 5 minutes from now is a little bit better than who I was 5 minutes ago, right? And who I am next week is at a higher level of consciousness than who I am this week, right? And that motivates me to keep pushing, to keep learning new things, to keep trying new things, to keep taking risks and pushing into new fields of endeavor, even when I'm not sure what the outcome could be. So, for example, I just started experimenting with drawing, right? Really passionate about art. I just started experimenting with drawing, and I'm self-teaching at the moment and practicing. And you know, I'm not planning. I don't have any real intentions at this point in time to be an artist. To sell my drawings or sell my paintings or anything like that. But you know, I'm interested in exploring myself and in exploring my creative capacity through that form of art, right? And the main motivation behind that is self-transcendence. Another example is I've been thinking a lot about exploring my capacity to thrive in a corporate environment, right? So I've been seeking out work opportunities and job opportunities that would give me the opportunity to play around, in a large multinational organization, that kind of thing. And that's the motivation there is not money or like wealth or anything like that, as much as it is just the need to see myself grow in that area. That was wild. I was not expecting that. Actually, I remember I was doing some writing. I was doing some writing and my phone lit up, so I picked up the phone. It was one of my friends. She's a poet, and she said, "Is this you?" Because I saw the meme. I was like, "Yeah, that's me. Where did you get this picture?" And she said, "She said you're trending on Twitter." Now that it's wild because I have a Twitter account, but I'm not active on Twitter. And so I go online on the app, and I see it's like 2,000 retweets or something like that. And I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. I don't think anything of it. I'm just like, oh, cool, because it's not the first time. It wasn't the first time that someone had me, found me, um, and linked me back to KKV. But then I think the day after, I woke up again, and that was crazy. I had like 100 DMs, spread out across all my different apps. So my Instagram, my WhatsApp, um, even my Twitter. Some people have found my Twitter handle that has like 50 followers and messaging me on that, and it was pretty overwhelming. It was pretty overwhelming, and it brought back a lot of great memories. I reconnected with a lot of people who I had acted with on KKB, a lot of the old producers who I hadn't spoken to in months. Um, yeah, it was a great experience. It was fun. Whoever started that meme, yo, thanks. That was it definitely brought a smile to my face. Of course. I identify as a powerful spiritual being, and to be a spiritual being is to be a creative being, right? And I think sooner or later on my creative leadership journey, it's only a matter of time before I circle back to where I started, um, which is acting. Whether that's acting in Nigeria or acting outside the country, or acting outside of film, so acting theater. Um, I definitely see myself maybe later on in the future going back into acting. It's acting is like riding a bicycle. It's like working out in the gym. Once you have that muscle memory, it's always there. You're always comfortable in front of the camera. You're always able to throw yourself into a role and completely embody that character and um, put it forward to your audience. So yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to getting back into the industry. I'd say, I definitely encourage anyone who's out there who watched me when I was younger. If there are any opportunities that you think I'd be a good fit for, definitely reach out. Let's have a conversation and see what we can figure out. That's a good question. Uh, if I could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, dead or alive, who would be? Give me a moment. Um, I'd I think at this point in time, so this is not an absolute answer, but at this point in time, today, right now, in this park, who I am in this moment, I think I definitely want to sit down and have dinner with Fela Kuti, just because right now I'm exploring and thinking a lot about, how do I be my truest, authentic self? How do I move through life and move through space and interact with people without compromising who I am, without putting on a mask? Um, you know, how do I connect with someone on a human level, heart to heart? And I think Fela really did that. He really did that in a very, it was wild energy. It was to echo Kanye West without sounding facetious. It was dragon energy. Fela really had that dragon energy, and I'd be interested in just speaking with him on it one on one and just saying, what was going through your mind when you put out Zombie, for example? What was going through your mind when you got all these people on stage? With what was it? When you founded the Kalakuta Republic, I think he had a lot of courage that a lot of artists today shy away from. That courage to really stand up to authority directly, and say, hey, I'm pointing the finger at you, Mr. Man in charge, and I'm saying you need to do better. You need to up your game. And that takes a lot of artistic courage and a lot of artistic integrity and authenticity to not sell out, to not compromise your values. Okay, so a typical day for me typical day for me starts between 4:30 and 6 a.m. depending on what I have to do that day. So I wake up between 4:30 and 6 a.m. And the first thing I do usually is so I'm sleeping, I get up and I sit up in bed and I meditate. I'll meditate. Uh, I meditate for anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes. And what I do is I do breath meditation. So I'm just focusing on the breath, connecting to God in that way. After I meditate, I might say a quick prayer. Most days, I say a quick prayer. Sometimes I'm in a rush and I don't. And then I get my phone, check my emails, check my messages, make sure I haven't missed anything while I was asleep, check the news. Then it's shower, eat. I do a quick body weight workout. I'm very big on fitness, so I call it 100. So it's 100 push-ups, 100 body squats, and 100 sit-ups, and that usually takes me about 15 minutes. You just crank them out. Yeah, I'm working. I'm in my seat in front of my computer and working by 9 a.m. without fail most days, unless I'm intentionally having a lazy day. Yeah, who knows when I start working? But I work from home at the moment, and my work consists predominantly of three things. So there's my creative work, which at the moment is my writing. I write fiction, I write poetry. There is my consulting work. Those are the projects I take on for various clients. So for example, at the moment, I've been doing consulting work for an organization called the Bridge Program, and they help young people develop themselves as leaders. Young Nigerian university students develop themselves as leaders to plug into the workforce. What personal projects am I working on at the moment? So at the moment, personally, I'm involved with, I would say I have like two core projects that I'm working on. So I'm currently working on putting together like a poetry chapbook. There's the African Poetry Prize that's coming up 2009. The deadline is in December. So I write poetry, so I'm putting together some poetry, a collection of poetry for that to put in an application. There's also a novel I'm outlining. I do a lot of writing. And then aside from that, in terms of my development work, I'm part of, I joined the African Youth Network earlier this year. It's organized by the Gracia Machel Trust, and it's a Pan-African collective of young people who run different networks across the African continent, coming together, to amplify their voices and to impact their communities to a higher degree. So I'm very involved there. Just as a general member. This is Akan Nelson. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to the Student Hub TV team. I've had a really fun time chilling here in the park. Thank you for coming into my space. If you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do that is to follow me on Instagram. You can follow me at Akan Nelson, at AKANNELSON. Or I guess you could follow me on Twitter. It's at Akan E Nelson. But at the moment, I'm not tweeting. I will be tweeting in about a week. Because I just got into Chimamanda's creative writing workshop, the Purple Hibiscus Trust workshop. So I'm going to be tweeting my experience there if you want to follow. Otherwise, yeah, I would say if you want to get a hold of me, just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll respond there. And we can keep the conversation moving from there. Thank you. Keep watching Student Hub TV. They're doing great work. And cool.